One United Nations staffer has been killed and another 5 injured after the organisation said an airstrike hit their compound in central Gaza. Local health authorities say more than 430 people have been killed since Tuesday, a lot of them children, when Israel broke the fragile ceasefire in the Strip. Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran is in Jerusalem.
Israeli strikes have continued across Gaza for a second day after a period of relative peace for the last 2 months was shattered in the early hours of Tuesday morning. And the United Nations says a compound where its staff were living and working has been hit. The staff were rushed to a hospital in Deir al-Balah, suffering a range of injuries, some very severe. One international staff member was killed in the explosion. The UN is being very careful not to attribute this attack to Israel specifically, although senior officials insist this was no accident.
I want to stress this point. These premises were well known by the Israeli Defense Forces, and they were deconflicted. And you know what does it mean, deconflicting? It means that everyone knew who was working inside the premises.
Israel says it isn't responsible for the explosion at the compound, insisting it was targeting other sites across Gaza, where it says Hamas militants were hiding out. But as the world has witnessed in the days since the strikes resumed in Gaza, many civilians are being caught up. Many children are among the dead. Israel is expanding its presence inside Gaza. It's been dropping leaflets in certain communities warning that they are now inside combat zones, issuing evacuation orders as it tries to expand the buffer area between the Gazan population and the Israel border. Ground forces have also returned, with troops and tanks deployed back into areas such as the Netzarim corridor, a stretch of land which runs across Gaza from Israel to the Mediterranean Sea, cutting off the north from the rest of the Strip. Israeli forces now back in control of half of that area. The response in Israel to the return to fighting in Gaza has been telling, with thousands taking to the streets, rallying against the move. Jerusalem has now been the focus, with a march into the city. The protesters and the anger and criticism they're directing at the Netanyahu government was reignited by the strikes on Tuesday, which they say threaten the lives of the remaining 24 Israeli hostages still believed to be living in Gaza and held by Hamas. But their grievances go further too, accusing the Prime Minister of pandering to loud right-wing voices in his government and being increasingly undemocratic and corrupt, purging officials who dare defy him. The protesters took their message to the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, before marching onwards to the Prime Minister's private residence in Jerusalem. That home is on Uzzah Road, or the anglicised version, Gaza Road, a somewhat fitting location considering the criticism being levelled at Benjamin Netanyahu over his handling of this war.